Now, what I saw in the room was everybody's chest. What happens to my throat when I do that? It tenses up. When you sing, the last thing you want is tension in your voice. When you speak, the last thing you want is tension in your voice. So I want you now to put your hand on your chest, just like a mother would relax you when you're about to fall asleep. Put your hand on your chest and try not to raise your chest and expand through the sides and the back of the rib cage. All right? Now take a deep breath from the sides and the back.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Malcolm, and today we have a special guest by the name of Adjoa Skinner. She's a 25-year music veteran and vocal coach. She was also nominated by the readers of Backstage Magazine as one of the top 5 vocal coaches in Los Angeles. How are you?
I'm doing great. How are you, Malcolm?
I'm doing well.
It's nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
So my is actually pronounced Adjoa, which is, if you think Adjoa, but she's not Jewish.
Okay.
That's the way to go.
What are some of the tools that you use to coach vocalists?
Well, one of them would be what I did today, using the acronym WATER. The W would be to wait. The A is actualize, to visualize and put yourself in that situation where you're doing the presentation before you do the presentation, thinking of your obstacles before they happen, and putting yourself in a situation where you're not allowing the audience's feel to affect you. So when you actualize everything, Webster's defines it as to make real. So when you actualize, you make it real to yourself. And then the other thing would be the T in water, which is to be thankful. Thankful that you're there, thankful that you're alive, thankful that you have that moment with people. E is the effort, to acknowledge your effort, and R is to relax and just enjoy. So I use that acronym today because it's a really easy way for people to remember as presenters and as business people that you get a glass of water before you begin any presentation. And what I usually do with my vocal students is I take them through something very similar. So that's the basis of it, really.
Wow. So how did you get started as a vocal coach?
I just had someone come up to me and ask me if they could learn piano first. And then I started teaching as a theater assistant. And I would teach people voice and then dance, and then one thing led to another, and I just started getting more and more students by referral. And even when I moved to Los Angeles, I had my former pastor from New York who said, I want to create you a position at my church. I want to make you the director of performing arts. And so I started working with all these kids, and then those became my first students. And I've basically done the majority of my students through referrals, just being present in their lives. And I've had some kids I've watched grow up. This family that I now teach, I have 3 other children that I teach. I think the greatest joy for me is seeing what it is to be a part of someone's life and help them overcome obstacles and grow and learn. And music is what makes me come alive, so I love it when I get to watch somebody else come alive doing music. For voice specifically, I really started learning more about the health of the voice when I started working with a student who suffers from aphasia. And aphasia is something that happens where there's severe brain damage. And her name is Gabriella, and Gabby I've worked with for the last 5 years now. And she had gotten into a coma for a month after she had a severe brain hemorrhage. And when she came out of the coma, she couldn't talk, she couldn't eat, she couldn't walk, she couldn't do basic things. And so the last 5 years of coaching her have been the most growing for me as a person and as a teacher, because I watch her overcome some of the hardest obstacles, just learning how to speak. And when we first started out, she could only say 3 consonants in one lesson, and that was a victory. And now she's singing entire songs that we write in the moment. And it's so amazing to me. It's probably one of the most gratifying things in my life is to have her in mine. So I teach because I love it, and I love my students, and they keep on coming, so I don't stop them.
How did you learn and develop the various tools and techniques that you use to teach?
I read, I ask a lot of questions. I've had various vocal coaches. I had vocal coaches in college and in high school. Because I grew up with my parents being musicians, I started doing session work when I was 6 or 7. And it started with commercial voices where you would do either character voices or like Kodak or Target or Uniroyal Laredo tires. And after a while, you just become really fine-tuned to the tiny little ups and downs of how you should use your voice. And life has really been my greatest teacher. But I have also had some great vocal coaches, and it's been neat to incorporate what they've taught me either just passively or directly, being able to, through books, through videos, through webinars, through voice training one-on-one, through performance, through touring, just going through the gamut of what it is to be a vocalist, and then to use those tools to best teach my students. But I'm always learning, I never stop.
That's great. So what's next for you?
Well, I co-wrote a musical. So this next step for me is that I'm going into, I'm giving my songs to an arranger, and he's going to be working with me, and we're going to be making this a full-fledged musical. So this next step is that we start a Kickstarter in a month's time. So October 1st we'll be launching it, and the musical is called On With the Show. Another smaller detail is I'm doing a live show on September 23rd at Bon Vivant in Atwater Village. I'll just be your background music when you're sitting and enjoying your dinner or coffee or tea or whatever, from 8 to 11 p.m. on Friday, September 23rd. And then I do online shows every Monday at 6 p.m. Pacific time on concertwindow.com/Adjoa, ADJOA.
Wow. Well, I thank you for coming and sitting with us and
Thank
talking
you. It was
about
so
the
fun.
various things that you're doing.
Oh, I appreciate you giving me the opportunity, so thank you, Mel.
Thank you guys for taking the time to look at this interview. I thank you, Adjoa, for taking the time to speak about the wonderful things that you're doing, music related, and coaching various entrepreneurs and business people. I'd like to thank Innovate Pasadena for allowing us to speak with their speaker. I'd like to thank Cross Campus for providing this lovely space for us to interview, and I'd like to thank Adjoa Sound and Entertainment for handling the technical aspect of this interview. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'll never forget, I get my first interest. I get my first response. And it was moving like a cabinet for some lady in Santa Barbara. And I remember she wrote me my first check. It's like $35, and I took a picture of it, and I said, I'm in business.